You listen to the Down Back Sofa podcast, where we take your calls, let your voice talk back. Sports and politics, the week's everyday facts, current events in the mix, we keep it all intact. With your host Joe Sally, that's the name to know. Down Back Sofa, let the real talk roll. Call and speak up, let your story unfold. 443-346-0039. Down Back Sofa podcast. Take your calls, let it all air out. Down Back Sofa podcast. Sports, politics, life, talk it out. Down Back Sofa. Joe Sally, come on, call right now. Down Back Sofa podcast. 443-346-0039.
Yo, welcome everybody to the Down Back Sofa podcast. I'm your host Joe Sally, and this is my very first episode, my very first podcast. So I'd like to thank you all for taking the time out to be with me and listening to my point of view on a few issues. I plan on dropping one every week, but right now I'm doing them pre-recorded. So I'm just getting my feet wet, and I just wanted to make sure I had this down pat before I started taking live phone calls and having guests inside. So today's episode is going to be about the GOP's Uncle Ruckus, their very own bootlicking bandit, Brandon Tatum. The reason why I want to have this interview on him today is because he recently did an interview with Nancy Grace about the Nolan Wells case and these kids. My opinion of him, my thoughts on Brandon Tatum is that he is the contrarian to black folks. Anything black folks are for, he's against. Anything the Democrats are for, he's against. And I'm going to play a couple of clips from the interview that he did with Nancy Grace to show why I think this of him. And after that, I want to spend a couple minutes on my favorite boys, the San Francisco 49ers, and 19 Problems. Deebo Samuel's back in the Bay on a 1-year, $7 million contract. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started on this Uncle Ruckus and his interview with Nancy Grace.
Bombshell tonight. In the last 24 hours, Nolan Wells' family hits social media giants, subpoenaing Nolan's accounts. I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. I want to thank you for being with us.
All right, so my first clip that I'm going to go to is him and the kid talking about the phone and them not having a reason to go through the phone. Why would they go through the phone?
Things, but I told her on the phone before I called the Coast Guard that we had Nolan's phone. Before I called Miss Christine, none of us had a reason to go through Nolan's phone. I mean, there's multiple phones on the boat. Why would it be? And the boat was having issues. Why would our concern be getting on Nolan's phone or something? I mean, I don't even know Nolan's password. None of my friends do.
Right there. Brandon Tatum, if he wanted to get to the truth and he wanted to help these kids out, he should have looked at that kid and said, no, you're wrong. Y'all had every reason to go through his phone. You guys could actually end up being suspects in a murder if he was murdered. Now, he should have said, no, you guys have every reason to go through that phone. Now, later on in this video, in this interview, he comes back and he implicates himself in possibly committing a crime, or he's implicated these kids in committing a crime. And it's after a point where a young lady goes through she lays out this detailed timeline of the boat's travels. And when it comes back, he says something that is very disturbing to me. That proves one thing, that he is either a liar and he knows he's a liar. Nancy Grace had already caught him in a few lies in this interview anyway. He's also a shapeshifter. So it was one point, I'm not even going to get into that, in the interview where they was talking about the polygraph test, and he was like, yeah, they took a polygraph test. And she was like, wait a minute, they took a polygraph. He was like, well, no, it wasn't really a polygraph test. It was more like on the theology. I'm like, hold up, theology? That's got to do with religion or the methodology or something. And then Nancy Grace brings on a professional in a lot of detectives and all that stuff. And that's when he comes back and said, oh yeah, what they took was some type of voice analysis test or whatever. It was crazy. But my thing is right here is where he implicates these kids in committing a crime, or he is knowingly putting out false information, which could lead people to believe that he's assisting these people, which would be making him an accessory after the fact. If he knows these things are not true that he's saying, he better not tell the police this if they come up to him. Because now, if I'm a detective, I sit back and say, hold up, wait a minute. Let me get to that point and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. I'm almost there, y'all. All right, I'll go from here.
Jargon, but they ended up getting the boat out. They ended up getting it to the point where they could run the boat, run the water out of the boat through a hole in the boat that they ended up plugging. They explained all this. Anybody that does boating know exactly what they're talking about if you hear them explain it on the interview. So they have an explanation for all of these things. And not only that, Nancy, they showed me video of them on the boat, and Nolan was not on the boat. Nolan was not on the boat log, and there are people who saw Nolan.
Right there. Right there. Yeah, we know Nolan wasn't on the boat going back. But that's not the point. The thing was, he said Nolan was not on the boat log. Here's the thing. It's not up for debate. We know for a fact. He even said in his interview that Nolan spent the night over one of their houses trying to explain why Nolan didn't have some stuff on the phone. And that was like their tradition to spend the night over before they went out to the Hard Island tournament. So we know for a fact that Nolan rode out on that boat to Horn Island on that boat with them. And this man just sat here and said that he saw a boater's log and Nolan's name was not on that boater's log. Here's the thing. We all know that, like I said, we all know that Nolan went out on that boat with him. So if they had a boater's log, Nolan's name should have been on it. It should have been on it. Here's how he implicates them in a crime, though. That was a recreational boat. Recreational boats in the state of Mississippi are not required to have a boater's log. Only commercial vessels with over 12 people need boater's logs, and they got to be a commercial vessel that need boater's logs. But what they do need to have, they have to have a life jacket for every passenger, fire extinguisher, whistle, some rings, and a few other things. So for them to have a log on there and Nolan's name isn't on there, to me, I would say, hold up. First of all, y'all don't need a boater's log, so why would y'all put one on here? And Nolan's name isn't on there, that would show me that they had intent to take that man out to that island and not bring him back. To me, that sounds like they were setting up an alibi. Now, either they're setting up an alibi, or two, this man is just making stuff up and didn't even realize that they don't need a boater's log, and try to make it sound like more convincing by saying, oh yeah, Nolan's name wasn't even on the boater's log. So now with him doing that, makes him an accessory after the fact, because that could be like trying to throw the investigators off. He's too smart for his own good. He's so smart that he's dumb. He better not tell the police that he saw a boater's log. He better just say when they come to him, he better say, I was just making that up. But I'm telling you, if he say he saw a boater's log, those kids had no intentions on bringing Nolan back, and they were setting up an alibi. I'll be right back.
You listen to the Down Back Soulful podcast, where we take your calls, let your voice talk back. Sports and politics, the week's everyday facts, current events in the mix, we keep it all intact. With your host Joe Sally, that's the name to know. Down Back Soulful.
Welcome back, everybody.
Samuel again looks to use his speed. Deebo Samuel's in. Touchdowns. Last year with 8 of them.
I know.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen anybody dry it with a towel.
So in their session with the officials, they didn't cover that part. They didn't get to that page. Here's Deebo Samuel looking to break off a big one. And he takes it across the 35.
Major pause.
He's a special player.
Here he is trying to make a man miss in space, and Taylor and has the first down. And Deebo Samuel is inside the 25 of the Seahawks.
You seen it. Deebo Samuels, number 19, is back in the Bay, baby. 19 problems on a 1-year deal worth $7 million. We don't no longer have to worry about that headache, Brandon Ayuk. We got a hell of a receiving core coming in. The offense look like it may be doing some damage. We just got to worry about that front 7 of the Rams. And that's it. Thank everyone for taking the time out to spend some time with me on my very first podcast. I'm looking forward to you being with me on this journey. I want to try and have one every week, but like right now I said, I'm doing pre-recorded episodes right now to get my feet wet, make sure I can work out all the bugs and all that stuff before I start taking live phone calls and having people in so we can sit down and do face-to-face interviews. Again, welcome to the Down Back Soulful Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Sally, and I'm out. Peace.
Real talk roll. Call and speak up, let your story unfold. 443-346-0039. Down Back Soulful Podcast. Take your calls, let it all air out. Down Back Soulful Podcast. Sports, politics, life, talk it out. Down Back Soulful. Joe Sally. Come on, call right now. Down Back Soulful Podcast. 443-346-0039.